Father Yah, we come before you right now in the name of your son, Yahushua Mashiach. Thank you right now for this day that you have made, Father Yah. We shall continue to rejoice and be glad in it. Father Yah, we just thank right now for now faith, which is the substance of things hoped for, Father Yah, and evidence of things not seen. You say in your word that without faith it is impossible to please you, Yah. You say he that comes, you must first believe that you are and that you are a reward of those that diligently seek you, Father Yah. Father Yah, we thank that we shall continue to seek you in everything, Father Yah. We thank right now, we know that we come in the name of Yahushua Mashiach and no other name. We thank you for being our mediator. We thank right now for being obedient all the way unto death, Father Yah. And that he is rose to the right hand of you in power, Father Yah. You said in your word that if there's any two or three gathered together in my name, this is what Yahushua Mashiach said, there am I in the midst. So we believe that you're in the midst right now. We believe that you're going to straighten out everything, every crooked path. We think that you're going to make it straight in our mind right now. We just think right now that we perceive that all things are going to work out for our good, Father Yah. Father Yah, we come against all forms of hindrances, Father Yah. Anything that tries to stop us, anything that tries to get in our way to present itself as a stumbling block, Father Yah, we push it out the way right now, Father Yah, with the ability that you've given us, Father Yah, through the Ruach HaKodesh, Father Yah. Father Yah, we thank you right now for mental healing right now, Father Yah. We thank you for physical healing right now. We thank you for healing in our Ruach right now, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just thank right now for just leading and guiding us into all direction, Father Yah, into everything of peace, Father Yah, everything concerning tranquility, Father Yah. We thank right now that we begin to walk in the light, Father Yah, not in the darkness, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just come against all forms of witchcraft, Father Yah. We come against all forms of hexes, Father Yah. We come against all forms of spells right now, Father Yah. We come against and renounce and denounce any forms of generational curses, Father Yah. Anything that tries to attach itself to us, Father Yah, that's not like you as a whole, Father Yah. We think that we prosper and be in good health, Father Yah, even as our soul prospers, Father Yah. Father Yah, we magnify your name because you're worthy right now, Father Yah. Father Yah, right now we're going to just magnify your name right now. We're going to just thank you right now, Father Yah. We're going to just begin to barak your name, Father Yah. We thank you, Father Yah, it is through you that we live and that we move and that we have our being, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just want to magnify you for this day that you have made, Father Yah. A lot of people didn't make it up, didn't wake up on this side, Father Yah. But you started giving us another chance, Father Yah, to be able to get it right, Father Yah. We don't take this chance for granted, Father Yah. We do take the time out, Father Yah, to sit aside to let you know that we appreciate you, Father Yah. Let you know that this is our Shabbat day, Father Yah. This is the day, Father Yah, that we'll set aside as our Sabbath, Father Yah. We set this day aside, Father Yah, to honor you, Father Yah, to begin to just acknowledge the fact that it is through you, Father Yah, that we'll get everything accomplished that we need. And with that, we just say, so be it.
So be it. Hallelujah.
Shalom, everybody. Again, we're going to get into the word. I got where I put my glasses. We're going to be talking about abiding in the ship and also mixed with taking counsel. We're going to look at Acts. We're going to be in Acts 27. We're going to look at Proverbs 19 first, and then we'll go to Acts 27. We'll look at Proverbs 19 verses 20 and 21. Then we'll go to Acts 27. It's going to be Proverbs 19. We're going to look at we're going to kind of capitalize on verse 20, but we're going to read 21 with it. But the point is going to really be in verse 20 of Proverbs chapter 19. It's talking about counsel, and it'll explain it more as we get into Acts.
Proverbs 19 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
Hear counsel and receive instruction that ye may be wise in your latter end. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of Yahuwah, that shall stand.
So basically, when you don't hear the counsel, you won't be wise in your latter end. It's like most of the time, the Most High have counsel set around you, and you won't realize it in certain areas. And when you ignore it, if it's something, sometimes it's minor, it doesn't really cause much damage. But what happens if it's a pattern of ignoring it? When something big happens, then it causes a lot of damage. And we'll begin to look at this and see where, when Paul was giving counsel, he was letting them know that they don't need to take a certain journey because it was going to be an issue. It was going to be it's going to be a problem. It's going to pretty much be shipwrecked. And since it was Paul, they didn't really want to hear any of it. And so it wound up causing an issue later. But it could have been avoided. It's kind of talking about warning coming before destruction in a sense. But if you take hold to the counsel, you won't have to worry about suffering some of the stuff that you suffer and then needing the grace of Yah to pull you out of it. It could have been avoided altogether. And this is the situation with this actual journey that they're getting ready to take. We have Paul that has already appeared before King Agrippa and Bernice. And it's like he was telling them, hey, look, you almost persuaded me to be a Christian. And Paul let them know, I wish not just you, but that all men be saved like that. And they use this example, of course, according to the King James Version. But when you look at it for what it's worth, everything that Paul was saying was on point, to the point where if he hadn't appeared before Caesar, they wouldn't have wanted to worry about taking his life. They say this man deserves nothing worthy of death or anything that needs to have him bound. And so at this particular point, as he finished pitching everything, you have a situation where they're also celebrating the feast days. So Paul gets permission to go and visit his friends. But in order to do this, he has to actually be on the actual ship. And at this particular point in time, he let them know this journey, is not necessary. We need to wait. But they was like, no, we ain't waiting. We're going to go now. And so this is where the issue begins to come, because of the fact that they can't see it because it don't look like there's a problem. But this is where you have wise counsel. When one's been down the road already before, get ready to go down that road. Most of the time, that's the parents versus the children, or that's an elder versus someone that's younger that's been in a situation before. And since you don't see an issue now, you say, okay, I'm not going to worry about that. But then as times arise and you get further on down the line with the choice you made, consequences begin to come. And now you need, the Most High to pull you from up out of the hole of a decision that could have been avoided if you just listened to counsel. But most of the time, since we don't see it, we say, forget it. We're not going to worry about it. We're going to go and do it anyway. So when we do it anyway, we begin to be in a position where now we're calling on the Most High, because it's like, we didn't avoid this situation altogether. And so we're going to start off looking at this, and we're going to read just a brief little part of this in Acts chapter 27, starting off at the first verse. Really nowhere around it. It's kind of got quite a bit. We ain't going to read much of it. We're just going to read a little and kind of discuss it. It'd be Acts chapter 27, starting at that first verse. And we have them needing to sail into Rome at this time, Italy.
Acts 27, starting at verse 1. And when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus's band. And entering into a ship of Adramyttium, we launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia. One, Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. And the next day we touched at Sidon, or Zion, and Julius courteously entreated Paul, and gave him liberty to go into his friends to refresh himself. And when we had lunch from thence, we sailed under Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Sicilia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein. And when we had sailed slowly many days and scarce were come over against Cnidus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete over against Salmon. And hardly passing it, came unto a place which is called the Fair Havens, not whereunto was the city of Lycia. Now, when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast of the Day of Atonement was now already past, Paul admonished them and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also of our lives.
Okay, and this is the thing. We have to read that to get to that point, because if you see that the handwriting is on the wall, at this particular point in time, we see that the winds are contrary. The sea is contrary with winds. And it's like, not only is there physical evidence that it may be a problem at this point in time, they like, okay, it can't be that bad in their head. Paul is letting them know, hey, look, it's going to be a problem with this trip. We don't need to take this trip, but it's hard to back off of something that you already done fix your mind to do. This is where the problem comes in at. Like that, I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure a lot of people that hear this video be guilty of having plans set up, and it's all lined out in detail. You got it all set up. You on the dock, you're ready to take off like that. You're at the airport, you're ready to take flight. But one problem is right before you get there, you get this divine intervention, or you get the word from Yah, or someone comes up and say, don't do it, don't go, it's going to be an issue, but you already prepared. You already got everything set up, your ducks in a row, you got your affairs together, all the business is set up, you've done certain things you can't reverse, spent certain finances on this. And so now at this point, you're like, well, I can't back out now, it's time to go, it's time to do it. But there comes a time where even though you got everything lined up, everything is designed, and everything that you feel like, all the T's crossed and I's are dotted, and you spent all the energy, you took off or whatever you got to do, you avoided certain business that you're supposed to take care of, you put it on the back burner, and now it's time to do this. Well, the problem is you can't do it. But since you've done everything else and put everything in order, you ignore the advice. You know what I'm saying? Like that. See, this is the problem. When counsel comes, it doesn't matter what you have in order and what you have designed and what you set up, it's going to be trouble. And sometimes you have to suffer the loss, or you have to suffer the loss of time, or the actual, I would say, the idea of being inconvenienced in order to be obedient. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. So you say, okay, I done got all this lined up, I can't back out now. And it's almost like getting ready to get into a fight, where it's like, something hits your mind and say, this is stupid, I'm not going to do this. When they say, well, you a punk, whatever. So at this point, you have to either pass the first punt or be that bigger person and say, look, nah, I'm good, I'm gonna walk off. Well, you weak in that aspect, but it was the wise thing to do in reality. That's the thing. So it's like, it's best to make a choice that's going to make you look weak, or make you look like you didn't stick to your guns, or wishy-washy, or whatever anybody may call you, than to not be obedient and to fall into a position where now you're in trouble and your life can be in danger. And this is the thing, like that. Or you can make a situation, you can make a choice that's so detrimental that it can cause issues to be, I would say, to alter your life, or to alter your livelihood. Because this is what's going on at this point. Without the intervention of what we'll see, of the angel, and of them having the presence of Paul with them, if this trip had been made, they'll be dead. That's it. And sometimes it matters, you know what I'm saying, like that. So this shows that it matters who's around you and who you actually accompany yourself with, because sometimes the person can be of great help and sometimes they can be a hindrance. So at this particular time, it was a good thing that they had Paul with them at this time, because without him, they wouldn't have made it. Like that, if we begin to keep reading it, we'll realize that they ignored everything, all the handwriting on the wall that showed from the beginning as we kept reading it. As we read this, it looks bad, but in their head, I guess it's not looking that bad. Like, hey, look, it's not going to be that bad of a storm. We're going to go through it anyway. Sometimes you're not, you have to look and say, okay, look, it's time to back out. I can't go through it anyway. Sometimes you have to put the brakes on and say, okay, look, I got to stop. You know what I'm saying? Screw it. I got to stop right here and don't go any further, because if I go any further, something deep down inside you tells you that you need to stop. But since you have, since we are creatures of habit and we have to complete things like that, sometimes we say, okay, look, I'm not going to stop, because if I stop, it's going to make me look stupid, or I'll feel like a failure, whatever the case is. But it's okay to feel like a failure and not get into a situation that's going to be detrimental than to keep going and the situation turn worse than what it could have been, than what it should have been, basically. And so we'll look down a little further and then we'll stop. Let's look at, I think you'll continue on to the 11th verse.
Yep, Acts 27:11. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul.
See, in his head, Paul wasn't nobody, so he ain't trying to hear what Paul's saying. I don't believe what this guy's saying. We're going to go anyway, because he's telling you what normally happens. Any event of a divine intervention is not what normally happens. It looks like you should do it. All the signs point to go anyway. Nothing tells you to back off. Nothing tells you not to do it. It all says just do it. And to go against what that is, that's where the Ruach comes in. The Ruach HaKodesh comes in and say, okay, look, or someone comes along with counsel and say, look, I know this is what normally happens, but now you shouldn't do it. That's why you got to be in tune, because at this particular point in time, they wouldn't study none of that. They're like, look, we going forth. You're going to have to go to Rome. Need you to talk to Caesar and all this stuff here, because look, we need to keep rolling. But at this particular point in time, it's like he's saying, look, we could do it, just not now, but they ready to do it now. Go ahead.
And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenicia and there to winter, which is a haven of Crete and lies toward the southwest and northwest.
And see, this is the thing, they normalize. It's normally not like this, no problem, we're gonna keep on rolling. Go ahead.
When the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had attained their purpose, loosened vents, they sailed close by Crete. But not long after there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Euroclydon.
Yeah.
And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive.
Pause. They lost control. You see what I'm saying? We let her drive, mean they lost control. And that's the thing. And so when this wind came against them, which they had names then we see for stuff, you know what I'm saying? They had a name for the wind like that. When this wind came against them at this particular point in time, it was like, look, we can't do nothing else. We just have to let it go. So they wound up losing total control of the ship because of the fact that they didn't listen to counsel in the beginning. I mean, that's the thing. So it got to a point where not only was the wind tempest, and it started off going softer to the point where now the wind is blowing so hard, they can't even drive the boat. They can't even steer the boat. They can't even, take it in the direction in which they need to go. They just got to let it go. And so now it's going wherever it needs to go until it get to some form of land or a crash or whatever going to happen. So at this point, all of this could have been avoided by just listening to Paul saying, don't go right now. And it just gets worse and worse. And saying it doesn't get any better. It gets to a point where it's like, without the grace of Yah, you don't even get a chance to explain how this is going. You can go a little bit more. I think you on 16 now.
And running under a certain island, which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat, which when they had taken up, they used helps, undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksands, straight sail, and so were driven. And we being exceedingly tossed with the tempest, the next day they lightened the ship. And the third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither sun nor moon nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was being taken away.
Now we're going to stop here. It got to a point where instead of them not going, it got to a point where it got so bad till they had to actually let the ship drive on its own. Now it's to a point where it's just total darkness, to the point where now they have like zero hope that they're going to make it at this point. It's like, and all this started with, as we read when it talked about counsel, all this started with ignoring counsel. Like, and it just shows you what happens. This is the product when counsel comes to you. When you ignore it, it can be something very small and you ignore it. You say, okay, well, it ain't nothing. We just get ready to go on the ship as normal and go to where we got to go. This is our transportation. But the problem is when they ignored that counsel, we see how this problem begins to be magnified more and more. It got to a point where they couldn't drive the ship. They start having to cast things off. We'll get to a point later where it talks, even the food at some point has to be cast off. It's like nothing else can be on the ship. And it's like everything that's going on now shows that you can't even see. Like it's when it's out there, I don't know if you've ever been somewhere when there's no street lights. When the street lights are not on, even in the city, and we see this like it's like total dark. I can be driving and I'm on like a back road and I just turn my lights out and it just get dark. Well, they're in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere. So that's no, you don't see 3 miles down a light on the porch and nothing like that with that. It's like black outside. Everything is black, everything is dark. There's no nothing. It's like at this point to say all hope that we should be saved is gone now. We don't even have any hope that we're going to make it. So at this point, there has to be an intervention. And so we're going to skip to verse 23 and look at that and see what happened to actually cause, because of Paul, they have an intervention of the Most High, with his angels in verse 23.
But there stood, skipping to 23, but there stood by me this night the angel of Elohim, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, fear not, Paul, you must be brought before Caesar, and lo, Elohim has given you all them that sail with you. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe Elohim, that it shall be even as it was told me. Okay, and this is the thing, we skip because it's the same thing, let them know you won't have no, there won't be no loss in that, be of good cheer. And going down to 31, we're just going to cap it off with that one, because this is pretty much what we're getting to here. Verse 31 of the same. Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, except these abide in the ship, ye cannot be saved. No, this is the problem. And that's the reason I went to 31, because Paul said, unless you abide in the ship, you can't be saved.
Now this is the issue. All these issues rose because they did not take counsel of Paul. And you have to look at that. Now, the only reason that they're going to be saved is because of Paul. And so in order for you to be saved, now you got to do exactly what he's saying do. And you won't be saved outside of the ship. You're only saved because you're with him now. He told you don't go. The angel came to Paul and Paul told him, look, hey, look, everything is going to work and going to be okay, because he can see through everything happening. Like he had that vision where he can tell that nothing wasn't going to go wrong. Now, that's just him having that foresight. But outside of that, you know, if he hadn't made that comment and anybody had got off the ship, they'd be dead. Like it's like at this point, people are willing to commit suicide pretty much in order to just stay in the actual boundary lines of where they need to be at to be saved. They're going outside of the boundary line. This is the problem. So this is the thing, like anything that's going on, when you look at this and you spiritualize this and say, okay, when you get out of the boundary lines and the guidance of the Most High and you get into anything outside of what he's saying do, then it's going to be an issue. When you flip this and say, okay, look, he's saying, look, I'm going to protect you by the grace of me here and there and wherever. But when you step outside of the boundary line, out of the confinements of what I'm saying do, like out of the confinements of my commandments, you lie to obtain something, and then these are the consequences, or you do this here instead of doing that, and I told you don't do this, you go see a medium, or whatever, spirits attack you. I'm just saying, so now you calling on the grace of me, but if you don't do none of that, and you just abide in me and abide in the things I said do, then you don't have to worry about these things causing problems to you. So at this particular point in time, Paul's letting them know, except they abide in the ship, they can't be saved, because now they're in my hands now. Now I'm the one that's being granted this here, you know, because of the angel that came and visited me from the Most High, because I first gave you counsel and you ignored it. Like that, and this was going on. When I say you in general, I mean the people didn't have any control of it, but the guy, you know, the ship guy, the one that sailed and everything, he sailed at the order of them instead of Paul. He could have not went, but at this time they're not worried about what Paul's saying, because in their mind, technically Paul is a prisoner. And so they're not trying to hear what a prisoner has to say over the idea of what, you know, one of their own is saying. So the captain is going to go anyway. If the captain had to listen, then they wouldn't have been able to get into all this trouble. Now at this point in time, they can't get off. They can't try to get anything, because as this ends, they all leave off on broken boards and certain pieces of the ship, and they all make it to land safely, but they're stuck in Melita for a minute, because Paul has to appear before Caesar, just like the angel said. And at this particular point in time, we're looking at it, when you don't abide in the ship, what happens is you begin to get into all other type of issues, because the ship was never supposed to be a place for them to be abiding in anyway from the beginning. They're supposed to be waiting until things pass by. Like sometimes you have to wait till the storm blows over until it gets to a point where things can be better. It's like instead of waiting till the storm blow over, you're going to go into the storm. But once you go into the storm, now you got to get yourself up to weather the storm. But you don't have to weather the storm if you actually just wait until it passes by. That's the thing. So at this particular point in time, it was impatience that actually caused this issue to come upon them. You know, so it was just like, no matter what went on, they was like, look, we gung-ho, we're going to do it anyway. We don't care about what Paul is saying. He's nobody and nothing like that. But now it's to a point where they do care, because it was to a point at one point in time, they was going to kill them all. But since Paul had favor in the eyes of the guards, he stopped that mission. He stopped them from killing them all. It's a lot we're not reading, because when you read this whole chapter, even the chapter prior to that, it starts out with Paul appearing to King Agrippa. And he let them know, hey, if you had never went to Caesar from the beginning, it would never be an issue. Now they're sending them all back to him, like say, look, I need you to go sail and go talk to Caesar and let him make this decision, because we don't think you worthy of death, and we don't think you worthy of being bound. And this is where this all starts, like that. That's why when he's talking to King Agrippa, he's letting them know, hey, look, not only that you be saved, but I wish that all men be saved. He said, why you think it's a great thing that the Most High, you know, allows someone to be resurrected from the dead? It's not a big thing. It's just how you view it. And this is what's going on here. When we look at this, it's not a big thing to wait or to actually gear up to weather the storm after you made a choice that's wrong. Once you make the wrong choice, you have to do it a certain way to get out of it. There's no way around it. It's like if you try to maneuver any other way around it, it's going to be an issue. It's going to be it's just like yesterday, you know, it's a small testimony. There was this car coming toward me, and it's like they was going at least 80 to 90 miles per hour on a road that shouldn't be no more than about 45 at this point in time. I was out getting ready to go take some food. and go pick up some food. And as this car was coming my way, it was coming at least 80 to 90 miles an hour on the wrong side of the road. I had a split second just to turn to the left, and I didn't have time to think about it. By the next second or two, it's almost like when they're getting ready to rush the quarterback, the second they got before they can get to him, he has to get the ball out of his hand. That's just how it was. When I went that way, if a car had been directly on the side of me and this car would have head-on-head collision like that. But when I looked through the rearview mirror, I was calling my wife. I told her, I said, when I looked through the rearview mirror, it's like I saw a hubcap or something come off, and half of their car was on the sidewalk. They was driving just so fast. But I'm just looking at the grace of Yah, how the enemy tries to take you out no matter what. But it's like, that's why I think at that point in time, I wasn't distracted or nothing like that. At that time, I'm thinking on him, and I'm not thinking about nothing else that's going on, ain't on my phone. It's like it happened at that moment. And that's how it was. You get that chance, you don't get another time. Like they didn't get another time to go back and stay there. Once you get into it, you're there. Like that, when you get into the atmosphere of things, you have to deal with what's going to come your way. And that's what it is. So at that point in time, pointing that out to show that you have to think quick. Like they didn't have but a moment to tell them, say, look, we're going to stay anyway. We ain't going to worry about going. They decided to go on go. And when they went on with, they had to go and deal with all that. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't have a time to redo it. But that testimony was throwing out just to show how sometimes you don't have another time to rethink nothing, to do nothing. Sometimes it has to happen right then, right at the moment. And when you don't do it right then you have to deal with all the other stuff, you know what I'm saying, that comes behind it like that. So it's like any other distractions, like any other time where you say, keep your mind stayed on me at all time. Well, if my mind went on them at that time, not that we have our mind on them 24/7 like we should sometimes, because we let the cares of this world distract us. But I think, at that time, the cares of the world wouldn't distract me, because it was it. It was like head on head, like for at least a minute or so, they must have been riding on that side, because all I could see was just burning rope. And in another second, I didn't see them no more. And I went back to ride to see was there any issues, anything, but maybe they made it where they had to go and got back on the right side of the road. But I know I had 1 second to think. That's it. And it was the maneuver. And if I had maneuvered in any other direction, if there had been a car blocked me, we was going head on head, just like that. And they was riding like the cars when you see them in the helicopter, when they're on a high-speed chase, when you see the helicopter up there looking at them and they're constantly riding, jumping over stuff. That's how I was going. But at this point, it was coming on like a speed bullet, split-second decision, make the choice. And that's what it is. Sometimes we have to think on our toes. We have to be quick. You know what I'm saying? We have to be quick to know what choice we're going to make. And that's only done in the Ruach HaKodesh. You know what I'm saying? In the normal mind, you can't. Stress, distraction, anything, it'll cause you to be a beat off. And one step or one beat off, then it could cost you your life. That's the thing. And so this is what the situation was here. They were a step off, and it cost them their life, except for the intervention with the angel of Yah that came to talk to Paul. And because they had Paul with them at that time, they didn't have to worry about dying, because they already had said we think all hope is lost, that we'll be saved. Total dark. They were out there for a couple of weeks, look like, when you finish reading it. You talk about so many days passing by that they're in darkness to a point where they don't know if they're going to see no light again. But just since the word of Yah came to Paul, he knew that one day light was going to come. So he kept encouraging them, letting them know it's all going to work out. And so this is the thing, we have to make sure that we are, like I say, just abiding in him also. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, but just sticking to this particular point that we're talking about counseling and talking about how sometimes when you don't accept the counsel or the counsel of Yah from certain ones because of who you think they are or whatever the case may be, it could cost you your life. It can cause you, it can cause your life to be altered also to a point where it's so detrimental that you can't get back to the point that you were at least not quick as you think you could, so you should basically. And so basically we just wanted to talk about that, saying that story there just kind of touched me, looking at that, especially after that event yesterday, I went to thinking about how sometimes you don't have a long time. You can't be distracted like that. You have to make sure you focus, because something can go on. You can be off focus, getting out your car, not saying that we ignore that the protection of Yah is there all the time, but he give us common sense that we have to use to actually be alert. Somebody could just walk up, trying to take something from you there because you're in some days or something like that. We just have to be focused at all times and realizing that the world still goes on. Everybody's not thinking about Yah like we are. You know what I mean? It's the thing, people are living their own life and they're dealing with everything they have to deal with. So that's why we have to be alert and make sure that we're available to deal with all the consequences, all the actual things that come our way. You know what I'm saying? Because that was just a fire dart from the enemy, came out of nowhere. I don't even understand that like that. That's why I know that, have to stay on my toes. Everybody got to stay on their toes and be ready to maneuver when it's time to maneuver, where we don't get caught in no type of jam or no type of bind. And I'm in it with prayer on that one. Father, y'all, just thank right now for the word that went forth. We thank right now that we be alert, that we be aware of the things of you, Father, y'all. We thank you, Father, y'all, that you be with us throughout the rest of this day, Father, y'all, we continue our day. Father, y'all, we just thank right now this is a day that we have set aside to acknowledge you, Father, y'all. In the name of Saint Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray.